Around September 11th, about 10 days ago, I started getting texts from 3 or 4 different friends, all asking me if I knew who had done it, with photos of blue smiley faces on rocks and trees. 11 days ago, on September 10th, 2022, Mount Iwate and the Toada Hachimantai National Park, where it is, made national news in Japan, and not for a good reason. Basically what happened is that a hiker graffitied more than 50 locations up and down the trail on this sacred mountain. And also, unfortunately, from my perspective, is that the one who did this graffitiing, this defacing of our sacred volcano here, was a foreigner. I don't know the details, just that he was a white guy. And so in this video, what I'd like to do is take a look at the damage. I know some of it's been covered up by the Hachimantai Mountaineering Association, but let's go take a look. It's still a beautiful day. Even though it's a serious topic, I think we can still enjoy this hike. This trailhead, the Yakihashiri trailhead, is not one that I've featured in videos before. It's called the Yakihashiri trailhead because it's right next to this glorious place here where about 300 years ago there was an enormous eruption, or rather from 2 eruptions from 2 locations that still leave this huge area covered in volcanic rock where nothing can grow. As you can see, the first long stretch of trail is just through the forest. Okay, here's the first spot that I've noticed. It's right alongside the trail here. It's just on one side, and as you can see, the Hachimantai Mountaineering Association has already covered it up with this linen, I think, bag, and here you can see kind of its blue spray paint under here. Most of what I know about this event I actually learned from a combination of people who hiked here and then posted on Yamap, that app that I often mention. Yamap, I really recommend it. Great maps, great GPS tracking. It's fantastic. And then also on Twitter, I found some Twitter accounts where they had posted photos, and I got some eyewitness accounts of people who saw the guy on the day, and that's how I know that it's a white guy. Apparently more than 50 places like this were graffitied, and I wonder if now, because it's 11 days after the fact, they're all covered up. Here's a rusty old sign which has more of that linen wrap on it. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Little smiley face here, huh? Yeah, they're all over the place, kind of tightly clumped together. Now here there's a blue spray paint arrow on the rock. I wonder if he also spray painted the rocks on the ground with the arrows as trail markers, and just the Mountaineering Association didn't see that as offensive, and so haven't tried to cover that up. So we did a combination of smiley faces and arrows on rocks. And I like to use those linen bags. It looks sort of natural. And look at this. I guess he also graffitied these logs going right over the trail. All right, since we're here, let me show you the second vent site. Basically 300 years ago, there were 2 locations where this volcano erupted off of the east side. It basically just shot out huge amounts of lava down in the landscape below. You can see down there this huge area that is still covered in volcanic rock and where not much can grow yet until that breaks down further. It's actually several meters deep as well. That's the sheer amount of lava that came out. And miraculously, no one died during that eruption 300 years ago. And so it's considered a special natural monument by the national government here. And it's actually a nice tourist site. At the trailhead to this, you don't have to go hiking here. You can just get out and walk around and look at. And there's a course that goes all the way through this huge lava field and a observation tower on one side of it. I really recommend it if you're in Hachimantai. If you don't have time for a hike, you can still check out the Yakihashiri lava flow area. All right, I'm gonna see if I can get a little bit higher and see more of this graffiti. Huh. I guess he spray painted something on these rocks next to the trail here. I wonder what. I wonder how long these are gonna stay on. We'll see, I guess. I'm gonna keep going a little higher and see how much farther up the graffiti goes. I know it doesn't go all the way to the summit. Nothing like walking up a steep, gravelly slope. And it looks like this smiley face up here could not be covered Maybe because of location. Oh no! Oh no! This is my favorite tree on this trail. Oh no! Aw. I mean, I guess it's not killing the tree, but man, look at this. I really like this tree. This tree has got personality. It's got character. Look at this. I'm really kind of bummed that this tree got tagged or marked or smiley faced, because I always just like the look of it. It's like a wizard, like a god, and now he's got a bandage on him. Oh well. Oh man, really? Even got the main sign there? Ah, jeez. Everywhere. At least he left this holy place unmarked. I'm grateful that he at least didn't mark this specifically sacred spot right here. And can you guess what this is? Look at this interesting thing, huh? Anyone want to guess what they think that is? Maybe you know. All right, I'll tell you the answer. They've taken most of the parts off of it, so it's not functioning anymore, but there used to be additional parts on that, and that would measure, yeah, seismic activity, shaking and any movements on the ground, and that was a way for them to predict or have an idea how big the risk is for a volcanic eruption. Now they've got modern things with solar panels at other places. Hirakasa Fudo, almost there to the Hirakasa Fudo Lodge. I love Fudo. Fudo, of course, is short for Fudo Myo-o Achala in Sanskrit, the immovable. More or less, it's a Buddha. It's Buddha. But the scary Fudo who stands with fire behind him, holding a sword and a whip or chains, he cuts through ignorance. He removes the impurities to pure awareness. And he does this out of compassion, not out of anger. Though his face looks kind of freaky, huh? Well, looks like I'm making a somewhat ill-advised zip up to the summit. It's nearly 3 p.m. in late September, so I'm going to be cutting it close with sunset with it getting dark on the way down. I do have a headlamp. I know this trail. I'll be fine, but usually if I was with anyone else, I wouldn't be doing this. I'm only doing it because I'm alone and I know my pace. Yeah. Almost at the summit now. Yeah, I think I got enough daylight left to get back. Well, I'm glad that there's no graffiti near the summit. Summit number 18 for me this year. I think about 78 total, I think. Yeah. Look at these beautiful clouds. The wind is picking up, and so I'm gonna zip right back down. Also, my sunlight is growing short. As time goes on, I don't want to go down in the dark if I can help it. So I'm going to zip back down, maybe stop on the way and explain a little bit more about the graffiti incident and things like that. But for now, it's getting chilly. I'm going to put the camera away and zip down here. Beating a hasty retreat down the mountain. Love this big rock structure here of the Hirakasa Fudo Lodge. Well, goodbye summit. Time to head back down from this paradise. This part is much easier going down. much faster. Of course, I have no idea why someone would graffiti smiley faces all over the trees and rocks in a national park here in Japan. So pretty soon after it was done, just 2 or 3 days, the Hachimantai Mountaineering Association, who is the same group that I went to fix the summit sign with earlier this year, those same people, some of them went up and immediately covered a lot of the trees. I experimented actually and tried to use a rock to clean off one of the rocks, and it actually came off without too much trouble. And so I want to come back again with, I don't know, some scrubbers or some water, maybe some biodegradable, non-toxic or something cleaning material, and see if I can't do some cleaning myself after a little bit of Googling. Of course, before I touch any of the trees, I'll consult directly with the local mountaineering association that's in charge of this trail. I don't want to do anything that's disrespectful or get in trouble, make the situation worse, but I would like to help cleaning it off since it was someone of my demographic that had caused the damage in the first place. Do something to repair our image. It makes me wonder though, whoever did this was tough. They hiked up this trail, and from the eyewitness accounts I read on the apps and on Twitter, they were fairly quick about it. And so they're a physically fit, youngish person. So why would they do that? I guess we can be grateful that they were smiley faces and not like cock and balls or something. That would have been a lot worse. I just wonder why someone would do that. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of background for why this mountain is so important. Mount Iwate was first sort of recognized, I guess, as a sacred mountain about 1,200 years ago when a great general, sort of one of, I believe the second shogun or something like that, his name is Sakano Ue Tamuramaro, there's a mouthful if you're curious about the actual name, and he was sent up to pacify the Emishi tribes that lived in this area up in northern Japan. And he was the warlord representing the emperor, the Yamato Empire in the south. And so he came up with armies and succeeded in basically dividing and conquering what are now known, at least what I call as the lost tribes of North Japan, the Emishi. And when he first came to this area, he recognized this mountain as a sacred mountain. It is said that he went to the top and designated as sacred to Daigongen-sama, which is an avatar, sort of a deity that's syncretic, both sacred to the animistic Shinto tradition and to Buddhism. And since then, it was also recognized as a sacred mountain to the Shugendo faith, basically these wandering ascetic monks, these mountain monks who are called Yamabushi. And they also treated this as a sacred mountain and had many pilgrimage trails. In fact, all hiking up mountains in Japan was basically a pilgrimage or something to purify yourself or to pray for a good harvest or freedom from sickness, things like that. And there was a big transition, actually, around the Meiji Restoration, around, I guess, the 1870s, 150-ish years ago. And that's when there was an effort to sort of get rid of Buddhism. Long story, I won't get into all the reasons for that because that would take a long time. But they sort of were replacing Buddhism with Shinto, and Shinto was a religion which had the emperor as God, whereas Buddhism doesn't have any particular feeling about the emperor, really. And so when the Meiji Empire started, when the emperor was returned to power and they got rid of the shogun, they made that transition. And when they were doing that, they got rid of Buddhism in a lot of places. And so in a lot of areas, Buddhist temples became shrines, Buddhist statues were thrown in rivers, things like that. And that was also the time when here, the Yamabushi, these mountain monks who would go up on these pilgrimage trails, were basically disbanded because they were a Buddhist group at that time. Now, some of them chose to switch to Shinto in the Yamagata area, in the Dewa Sanzan, but the ones up here in Iwate either weren't given that option or chose to disband rather than to become Shinto. And so there's no more Yamabushi really that come and pilgrimage to this mountain like there are in other places in Japan. But the statues still remain. On the summit, there still are about 66 stone statues of the Bodhisattva Kannon, or in Sanskrit, Avalokitesvara, up on the summit, and those are remnants of that. They were brought up in the Edo period. In fact, they were brought up twice, because the first time they brought up these big, heavy stone statues, there was an eruption which washed them away with the lava, or the explosion of the eruption. So they brought up another set of them around God, each one is different because some of them were replaced, I believe, but the dates I've seen for some of them place them around 170, 180 years old, the ones that are currently around the summit, though a few of them are newer than that. So you can still see those traces of the Buddhism. You can still see those traces of the Buddhist history of this mountain up on the summit. And there are some people who still pray to them and sort of, yeah, offer prayer or view hiking this as a pilgrimage. But basically, the Meiji Restoration marked when alpine hiking, the Western idea of hiking to get to the summit because it's there sort of thing, came to Japan. The pilgrimage hiking mostly ended and was replaced with the Western European idea of hiking. And so there was an explosion of new hiking trails. They became more well-maintained. Eventually national parks were declared and imitating sort of the American tradition. But it was the very beginnings of skiing and alpine hiking and all these things in the early and mid Meiji period. And any way you look at it, these mountains are still treasured and loved by the locals. And yeah, of all the places to put your own graffiti, even if they're just like happy faces on trees because you're high or in a good mood, it's so disrespectful and just, yeah, really sad and really awful. And I hope whoever did this realized what they did. I mean, I assume, well, I know that the police found them from what I saw on Twitter. And so I hope they realize what they did. And I don't want to be too negative. I don't want to be too angry. I want to give whoever did this the benefit of the doubt and hope they really learned a huge lesson with this because, yeah, they really upset a lot of people. I'm hoping none of the damage is permanent. And maybe it's a teaching moment where we can all reflect again on just how important these national parks and these sacred volcanoes are to us and how important it is for us all to keep them pristine and to treasure them and to treat them with the respect that they deserve. Okay, it's getting really late and I'm gonna lose my sunlight here, so I'm gonna head back down the mountain. I hope I wasn't too negative this video. I tried as much as possible, even though I'm dealing with a kind of a unpleasant topic, to keep it positive as much as is possible. And I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the trails.